Bonus live stream time, boys. Bonus live stream time. So, for those of you who are new to the channel, I do a live stream every week, and so we did this one earlier. I think it was on Thursday we did this week, but we're doing a bonus live stream because we have a cool little announcement. For those of you who don't know, my YouTube has memberships where you can sort of support the channel and get some emojis and all that sort of cool stuff, and it got turned on today. So we officially have memberships on the channel, a $2 tier and a $5 tier. $2 tier is sort of like, hey, I just want to support you, a buck here, a buck there, basically. And for that, you get a link in the description to maybe a side project you want to share if that's something you're interested in. For the $5 tier, so you have the junior tier and then you have the senior tier. I'm so clever, I know. And for the $5 tier, you get a bonus video a month and bonus live stream a month on top of that other tier, as well as access to the members only community stuff. And then you have some pretty dope emojis, which we'll expand out on. But if you do Dylan, you can get the coding god emoji. You can also get the bug emoji. You can get the JS life emoji, and you can get the stressed out dev emoji. But it's been kind of fun, man. I've really been excited that this is something that happened, because a couple times you guys have been asking to it. So if you want access to the emojis, you just once you sign up, you can do Dylan, and it will come up with the 4. And I actually have other ones, but we have to wait until we have, I think, 5 members or 2. If I get 2 members, I get 1 more emoji, and then essentially, depending on how many members you have, is how many emojis you can have. But yeah, it's been a cool little thing, and something that I got an email from YouTube about a week ago saying, "Hey, you are now qualified for this." And I was like, "Dope. Let's go ahead and turn that on." So the first thing I want to say, though, is, and I say this in like the intro video if you're considering it, is that if you don't have the money, don't sign up, right? Because like financially, this is not, so these memberships, right, are not to support my life. Does that make sense? Like, I don't do YouTube to go and pay my bills. They help pay my bills in the sense of I'm able to be very proactive. I pay additional off my mortgage. I have no debt. They go into investments. So things like that help me get ahead in life. But if you're like, hey, I want to give Dylan money because he's starving and hungry, I'm not. I'm doing good, man. Life is good. I'm doing great. But if you just want to say, hey, here's a cool little way to say thank you, show some love, that's one way that you can go about it. And you can help a brother out. So but yeah, if you're out there grinding and you ain't got $2, you ain't got $5, I understand, man. I do. I really, really do. But if you want to just show a little bit of love, that's one way that you can do it. Okay, so did I look into Block? Yes. So the reason I went against Block is, one, I had a colleague who I asked him about it, and he didn't recommend the program, and that was enough for me. He went through it. He didn't recommend it. And I want to say at the time, I could be mistaken, I don't know that Block does a income sharing agreement. I could be mistaken. What's up, Luke John? The legend himself. Block has a job guarantee or your money back. Same thing with the income sharing agreement. If you don't if you don't get a job, you don't pay them. Yeah. But more so than that, it's not necessarily about the money even. It's about what the people I've known who have taken similar programs have said. So like for me, the money's not a big deal. $20,000 is a lot of money to me, but it's not something I wouldn't be willing to pay if it meant getting April's career started. But considering that I got I had some bad recommendations from their platform, and that's just one person, anecdotal evidence, and they did. There was also a good example of good example for Lambda being a good fit for her. That I thought that was the best way to go. Either way, you're gonna have to put the work in yourself, right? Either way, it's just the way it rolls. How long would you think it would take me to learn to code and get a job in the Bay Area? And what is the average starting salary? So a lot of the devs I used to go to meetups with in California work in the Bay Area, and they all started around 100, 110. But it's not that much money in the Bay Area. So you're damn. What was it? I think I saw the other day. Poverty salary in San Francisco. Let me read this to you. So poverty in San Francisco, according to sfgov.org, is $82,000 a year. For an individual, for a family, it's $117,400. Is considered poverty for a family of 4. So, so when I say you're starting at 110,000, and you're like, "Wow, man, that's pretty good, Dylan. You make 115, and then whatever your bonuses are, that must be." And you have a couple years experience in the Tampa area. That's not too bad. You're getting paid poverty wages based off of what literally the city of San Francisco says. So when I say that, and I've talked about this a couple times where I get job offers in SF and they offer me 140 and stuff like that. And I'm like, we're not even having a conversation until we get to 250. Like 200, you might intrigue me if you have some good benefits and good bonuses, but base salary, yeah. But yeah, man, it's an interesting beast. That's to say the least. Let me put this in the closet here. But yeah, so 82,000 for an individual is poverty wages. For a family of 4, it's 117.4. So sort of crazy, right? Hey, you're welcome. I Magic Cal. I'm Magic Cal. I'm glad you found the channel helpful, man. It's been my channel is unique in the fact that like I throw out a lot of content, right? And it's sort of I've always had it go based off of where I'm going with my career and what I'm doing and whatnot, which has always been the goal. But what's unique about it is you've been able to see me go from before a dev to a dev, and then you've seen go from junior dev to senior dev, and so on and so forth. And by God, give it a couple years, you'll see me go from senior dev to tech lead, and so on and so forth. Can I get a job with basic Java knowledge? Probably not. Java's a little bit harder to get into. So a lot of devs learn Java in college, so you're going against CS grads, and then also you're getting hired. How did we get 2 MAs this week? Well, might you see the title where we now have the membership, so you can do the join stuff. So you can join and support the channel if that's something you're interested in, and get some of these emojis. Get your emoji on, like the coding god emoji. But yeah, so Java's gonna be a little bit of a harder one to get into, in my opinion. Welcome to Junior Dev. Thank you, Luke John. Luke John is our very first new member coming in hot with that junior dev level. All right. Uh, I appreciate that, man. Let's go, man. Pokemon grind. There you go. Damn, you got that spicy green. That's a nice green. I got the dark theme going on. I think I gotta go in and change the emojis from JPEGs to PNGs. Because I didn't when I had the white theme going on, I didn't see this, but now with the dark theme, so it stands out a little bit. We can make it a little bit better. So we'll do that later today after the live stream. But yeah, man. So design patterns you find yourself frequently using. So more important than design patterns are principles. So like the solid principles are not a design pattern so much as a way that you code. And so that would be something that I use quite frequently, more than anything else. MVC is something I use quite frequently since I work in Angular quite a bit. Hey Dylan, what do you recommend to build to get better at Angular/React without feeling overwhelmed? So I recommend taking something you're passionate about that you're going to work on long term. And that's a very hard task for you to do, and I don't expect you to sit right here and decide what that is, right? So the easiest thing to start with is a basic portfolio. You go and you build a portfolio page, and then you say, okay, cool, I have a portfolio page. It's just a home page with some basic routing. So I got some routing and some two-way data binding. So you've introduced yourself a little bit to that, the forms module. And you say, cool, next thing I want to do is I want to actually connect to the GitHub API, and maybe I'll display some stats based off my GitHub on my about page. So now we go and we're working with services. We're working with the Angular HTTP module, all that sort of stuff. You're getting a little bit more comfortable with that. And they say, you know, what'd be really cool is if I could create a contact page where they email me directly. So now you're working with email forms and maybe even a little bit of back end to accomplish that, right? And you say, cool. And with I said email forms, I meant reactive forms where now we're validating the inputs and we're doing some pretty cool stuff. And you slowly start implementing this piece by piece. Then you say, you know, it'd be really cool. I'm getting these little milestones in my career every couple months. What if I built like a timeline so people could see how I've been progressing? And all I do is I update it. And I design this timeline to be very animated, very stylish. And I'm using the animation library that Angular has. I'm talking about Angular because I know Angular much better, but I imagine React has very similar things. But you see what happens is you go with the MVP. The MVP is the minimal viable product, not the most valuable player. You are the most valuable player, and you need to remember that. But you have to remember that you don't just become your own MVP. You have to live the MVP lifestyle. All right. So, but we're talking about the business MVP. And in this case, your business MVP is just getting something up with maybe a navigation, a footer, and a homepage that says who you are and some projects. That's the bare minimum. And then you go and you build upon it. You build those more advanced features and say, okay, cool, I already have a portfolio. I did all that. Well, what's next? Well, now we find something we're passionate about, something that I want to work on for the next 2 years. That's you say, cool, I'm very interested in, in my case, I'm very interested in teaching and educating, just software, general software stuff. So all my projects related to software, whether it's speaking at a conference, building a course, doing the YouTube channel, video dev docs, right? Which I've been working on nonstop, or I was. I need to get back into the groove. And these are the things that that can happen, but you have to find something that you're going to work on long term and deliver that MVP and then build upon it. So what often happens where that overwhelming feeling comes from is all you can see is the final product. When you look at, like, let's take W3 Schools, right? You look at W3 Schools and you want to build something. Like, I want to build a W3 Schools that's video based. Now, when I look at that, I don't say I need to rebuild everything they have. Every piece of functionality, everyone. That's very overwhelming. That's tens of thousands of pages. That's hundreds of different components. That's, so many features that they've accumulated over 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, that for me to, of course, I'd be overwhelmed. But what you do is then you look at it and you say, what is core? It's like when I was at the conference, there was a startup track, and one of the people said, define what is core about your business. And likewise with your project, what is core functionality? What can we get our MVP out the door so people can see it and then we can build upon it? So you got to find those projects. Any advice for a mid-level developer, 5 to 6 years to get to the next level? Yeah, so you should probably already be a senior developer around 5 years. If you're not, it's probably because you haven't been improving or job hopping enough. So the thing I always recommend for all developers to read is Clean Code, The Clean Coder, Clean Architecture, Code Complete. Those books will help you level up. So you want to get comfortable with testing. You want to learn some of the the newer technologies, make sure you're up to date, and you want to start putting yourself out there a little bit. One thing that has really helped my career is showing future employees and employers that I am a better developer every year and I will help your team grow. That's what I can do. And how do they know that? Well, because I'm helping the whole community grow by sharing my knowledge and doing this and giving talks and releasing courses and doing a podcast, all these sorts of things that I'm going out of my way to improve the community. So what do you think I can do for your team? When I work with you 40 hours a week, we're on the same team. When this is what I'm doing outside of work for everybody else. So what's one thing that you can do is sort of paint that picture. My boy Luke John, though, hooking it up with that membership. I appreciate that, man. The legend. Now I need a real junior to like, hey, you'll get there. You'll get there, man. The key to succeeding with anything that seems like a large task is breaking it down into the fine pieces and then just moving forward every day on that. I always knew what it was I wanted to accomplish when I came to Florida. When I came to Florida, I wanted to get some resume experience. I wanted to pay off my debt. And I wanted to buy a house. Then I want to get money in the bank. I've done all those things, but it took 4 years. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen as fast as I wanted it to, but it happened in a reasonable amount of time and with a lot of effort. But you just got to keep on ticking away. Misty Cat says, "Hi Dylan, thanks so much for the algorithm course, the interview course. I got 2 job offers because of them. Knowing the basics is so important. Also, I got FizzBuzz as one of the interview questions." There you go. So shout out to some of my courses, which there's links in the description below. If you're saying, "Damn man, I really wish I could help prepare for those whiteboard interviews. If only there was something like 100 algorithm problems where someone works through them in JavaScript and TypeScript, that would be really helpful, right?" And I would pay $10, maybe even $15 for said course, especially to support somebody who puts out so much free content. You can get that in the description below and take the challenge, the 100 algorithm challenge, to get up and going. Have you ever been on a job with code base was really poorly maintained when you first came about it, and if so, how long did it help turn it around? So yes, so I work so. Let me paint a picture that's not going to be very pretty, but it's going to be very honest for a lot of you. A lot of companies nowadays, and I'm not necessarily saying this about my current employer, past employer. We're talking generally, but yes, I have at multiple places. So a lot of companies nowadays are starting to realize that whether their core business at one time was a information technology company or some sort of internet-based company, that every business to survive since 2010 on needs to build up their devs, need to build up their information technology. And so it takes businesses a while to realize what that means. And so typically the first step for a business is to go and hire the cheapest part and more of it. So like the mythical man month is something a lot of businesses don't understand. because it doesn't make sense from a number perspective. So if you don't know about the Mythical Man Month, what that is it's a famous, like a lot of people who have taken computer science programs will know what I'm talking about, but it's a famous paper about is one mother, one baby, 9 months. But what businesses, and that's somewhat very true to what it means to be like software development. It's much more like that model than the model that businesses like, which is 9 mothers, one baby, 1 month. Sometimes you can't do that, and most of the time you can't. And so what ends up happening is businesses a lot of times fall into that trap. And so they say, hey, why don't we just because they haven't realized the importance of internet technology, web technology, whatever you want to talk, to their core infrastructure, which almost every business nowadays, it's very core to their business succeeding. This says, okay, cool. Well, why don't we just hire 4 devs for the price of one from Asia, India, the Philippines, Chile, whatever, and then you have these offshore offshore agencies that are doing it, and some are good, some are bad. But what you have to understand is that when the a lot of times is when you're working with third parties rather than in-house devs, and this is true for offshore or onshore, is that you're oftentimes getting an inferior product. One, because they don't care about the code, because they're not gonna, once you end the contract, they're done. They don't have to worry about it. Two, the best developers who are in these offshore areas that are maybe not getting paid the best, they actually move and they go and they get green cards, or they go and they move and they accept roles at better companies, and they go and make more money. That's what happens typically. Maybe not very early on in their career, but it does happen. So what you end up with a lot of times are poor code bases where businesses learn the hard way. Businesses learn that, oh, I thought we were going to save money and we're going to get more for it. Doesn't that sound too good to be true? If I told you, look, listen, I will deliver the same thing for less money and more of it in a shorter period of time. Doesn't that sound too good to be true? Yes, it does, and it often is. And so what happens is you sort of you fall into this unfortunate trap that a lot of businesses have, where then they spend all this money on this prior code base, and instead of rewriting it, they want you to maintain it, improve upon it, and they've learned their lesson, but oftentimes they've invested so much time and money into the product itself that they don't want to rewrite it. Because they're not convinced that it'll be any better, or like they that understand. So like businesses care most about features, and one of your jobs as a developer is to communicate with the business about the things they don't give a shit about and make them care. And so that's hard because it requires honesty and something a lot of people are uncomfortable with. Um, so what you can do is you have to be able to paint the picture. So one thing I've gone on projects that haven't had any testing, explain to them the importance of testing, making it part of our pipeline, making it part of our process, so that now we have tests, so we know if we break something. And you say, okay, cool. We implement that. Then explain the importance of PRs. They say, well, that's going to make us go slower. And then you hit them with stats as to, well, 1 hour of PR has been shown, 1 hour of doing PRs has shown to save 40 hours of development and bug fixing. So that 1 hour, like if you say you don't have enough time for PRs, then you definitely need PRs. You understand what I'm saying? So, okay, cool. You make that point. Then you talk about branching strategies. And so eventually what happens is you essentially implement these policies and procedures, which would be standard and should be standard. But a lot of companies struggle with saying no and explaining why, and a lot of individuals. So it's much easier just to be a yes man. But oftentimes what happens is companies don't respect you for it, and they walk over for you, and it stresses you out, and then you end up quitting. So when I tell a business that I'm working with, that I'm employed with, this is how we're going to do things, and this is why, it's phrased in such a way as to it's phrased in such a way that um, it's not so much a question. Does that make sense? Where it's not so much as a question as this is how I write code, and this is why I write the code this way. So, would I consider myself part of the top 5% of engineers? That depends on what you define as top 5% of engineers. I don't know. It's hard to say that. I'd say I'd feel comfortable saying top 10, and then we can go from there. Any code you didn't write is legacy code, to a degree, yeah. Does it really matter if it were in 25 years ago or in the last week? Absolutely, absolutely, it does. 25 years of improvement. It's like saying that it's the equivalent of saying that I don't care that my house was built 25 years ago versus today. Well, 25 years ago, they had different architecture techniques. 25 years ago, they had different materials. There's been wear and tear. There's been numerous, and imagine also that your house in this instance has been worked on by hundreds of different people that nobody knows why you did the wiring this way. Nobody knows. And so you get very scared. 25 years ago, they didn't care. They didn't give a shit about unit testing. They didn't give a shit about end-to-end testing. The web has evolved so dramatically in 25 years that you're going from static like HTML3, HTML4 websites to fully functional web apps that have responsive design. You have progressive web apps. They're so much more functionality that depending on who worked on it has no idea what they're doing with it. So yeah, I do think it matters. Um, are you full stack dev at your current job? Yeah. Although I spend about 95% of my time in the front end. Hey guys, don't forget to smash that like button. Thumbs up. It's only 4 of you that hit that. I appreciate the 4, but I think we can get a few more on there if you don't mind. Let everyone know that we're trying to shill some memberships. All right. Why am I standing? I sit a lot, so I'm probably gonna sit down in a second. But what backend do you recommend or see more often? It really depends on what sort of application. I don't really think it particularly matters. What I would say is that if you want to do very rapid development, which I think a Node backend lends itself to, that's a good thing. The problem with that is it has less. It lets you make more mistakes if you want to. So, what does a typical workday look like for you? So, I work full remote, and my typical workday is I wake up about 7. By 7:30, I'm right here working. Usually I have stand up at about 9, and sometimes I have meetings before that, but usually for the first hour and a half I'm going through emails, I'm doing PRs, and I'm if I get about half an hour of working on stuff. So I then from about 9 to 10 or 9 to 10:30 have about stand up and meetings and stuff like that. And I do a little bit of work, and I go to lunch at about 11. So from 11, 11:30, 11 to 12, depends. Usually I take a short lunch. And then that second half of the day, it's really where I'm deving. I'm pairing with some colleagues. They get stuck on things. We're having discussions. I'm working on tickets, whatever it is. And then, of course, depending on the day of the week, you're having various ceremonies, meeting with stakeholders, meeting with the business, being like Scrum Master or BA about certain requirements, getting details. But usually, second half of the day, I'm writing code pretty consistently. What else do I need to know in Java at least to get an entry level job? If all you're trying to figure out is what you need to know, simply go on LinkedIn in the area you're looking to hire for Java roles and see what skills they're asking for, and then go get those skills. Personal opinion: C# or Python? C# for the backend, Python if you're interested in data science. Been working on reactive issues with the reactive forms. Any tips? There's a lot of good courses on reactive forms. Um, the main tip I would have is simply importing the so reactive forms gets very long very quickly. It makes your component look very ugly very quickly. The main tip I would have is exporting that from a file and then importing it into a file. So that'd be the first thing I'd recommend. Was your headphone model? I don't know. I asked a buddy which one he recommended. He said this one. I just bought it. It's all right. I liked my wireless Turtle Beaches from back in the day a little bit better. I don't remember what happened to those. I might have sold them. When I moved to Florida, I had to sell a lot of stuff on Craigslist relatively cheaply because I had to fit a carload and I needed money. I had no money. Yep. And the first job never pays the best. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was actually probably doing pretty good to get paid 62K and then 67 after 3 months is pretty solid for the Florida area for your first dev job. It's something I'll always be thankful for. The PHP, oh my god, Cake PHP, what a garbage ass framework. Thoughts on PHP? PHP is definitely the legacy route. So if you don't mind working legacy code and you don't mind getting paid less because you work in PHP. Got an offer for my interviews this week? Hell yeah, Jose. Let's get the details, man. Can't be jumping in on that. Get the details. Let's hear it, Jose. I want to know the deets. This is like when you were in high school and you would share stories about escapades with ladies and gentlemen. Like, what's the details, man? Tell me. I need to live vicariously through you. Because nobody wants. I have no deets to share. Internship 40-hour this summer. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. The goal of getting hired on full time, hopefully? Is that something there? It's sort of an intern. Is it a sort of contract to hire type internship? Yeah, hopefully. Nice, man. All right, man. Well, now's the time to put in the work. Good stuff, though. Congratulations. What am I doing for Thanksgiving? A what do we call it? A buddy of mine invited me over for the holidays. So April and I are going to a colleague / friend's house, and we're gonna be going over there. So that's what we're doing. Other than that, not too much, man. I plan on relaxing a little bit, playing some board games, working on some stuff. Can self-taught developers compete with computer science degree graduates when applying for jobs? I can. I'm self-taught. I don't have a computer science degree. I don't even have a bachelor's of any type. So I would say yes. If you're smart about it, work hard and know what to do. I know a lot of people think that just because you went through a computer science program, you're a good developer. They normally, I mean, there is some correlation, but not as much as you think. How come we don't green screen anymore? Well, I green screen when I was renting an apartment, and so I painted the wall green. Nowadays, I don't want to paint my wall green because I own this place, and I haven't had the need to. I might down the road. And the smoke stuff. You mean the essential oil diffuser? I've had oil, so I mean that's the main issue. Can I recommend any mentors who are in the price range who dig holes for a living? um, I know I'm quite expensive, aren't I? So for those of you who don't know, I do mentoring, and that's why I do this stuff, right? But I do personal one-on-one for basically $150 a session. But if I was gonna recommend some, are you looking for like tutoring? What are you looking for? So if I was gonna recommend somebody I've used in the past when I was learning things is if you go to thebestjs.com, you can go and his name is Stephen Mayu. He's I've had a couple of phone calls with him and worked on some things together here or there in the past. Really great guy, former English teacher turned developer. I think it's in the Austin, Texas area. That you can have a conversation with them. One other thing I'd recommend is going to pramp.com and you get you get some free stuff. How long is the session? I charge so it's 1 hour session. My preferred language is TypeScript for front end and back end. Yeah. What library do you use for unit testing? Jasmine or Just. Those are my two. Those are my two main squeezes. She's still coughing. I'm much better, man. But yeah, April's sick now, so like I've been getting less sick over time. Um, yeah. Yeah. But don't worry, I'm gonna survive. What exactly did I do in the mentoring sessions? Okay. So it depends on what it is that you're interested in. Most of the time, most people are interested in trying to see where they are in their path. And also they're interested in like what am I doing wrong and why am I not getting callbacks? So that second part, we spend about the first 30 minutes going over your resume, going over your portfolio, going over your LinkedIn, going over your GitHub. Those four things are absolutely crucial. So we go into there, give tips, give tricks, go over, say this is why I would change, this is what you need to do. fix those 4 things. That's going to help you tremendously. Usually the second half is a combination of what is the study goal, what is the game plan, what are things I should consider, and then that's usually, I would say, 1 hour in total, right? But sometimes people want, like, hey, will you give me a mock interview? And for the second half, and so to see where I'm at, like pretend that you were interviewing me for a junior level role. What sort of questions would you ask? My preferred front end framework is Angular. I like the opinionated nature of it because I think it's great. So much fun. I thought it was pretty easy. How easy is it to transfer from Java to .NET? Easy is a word I don't like, because I think it implies a bit of laziness, and I also think it implies the wrong thing at the end of the day. Of like, you should already know the answer to that question if you actually learn Java in depth. As you go and if you go and look at, how can I put this? If you understand what it takes to learn a language, and .NET is obviously not a language, but it's a major part of C# backend, then you should understand what it's going to take, because it's just going to be something else. It's going to be pretty similar, except it's going to be C# version. So you should have an idea of what it would take, and just by working in it consistently, if you had learned the previous language very well. Any future Udemy courses? So that's funny that you asked that. I yes and no. I actually put a I want to. So I always have a couple courses that I want to build, and I have a very fun course that I'm looking forward to building called the 100 Component Challenge, and this is a spicy course, let me tell you. And so the 100 Component Challenge is going to be. I'm still debating if I'm going to do multiple frameworks or just a single one, but we're going to build 100 different components, such as a modal, such as a dropdown, such as a loader icon, such as like everything you can imagine when you get to 100, right? As an alert, such as a toast, whatever. That's one course that I think I'm up to like 70 of the 100. I want to build that. I think that'd be a fun course to make, just building 100 different components. And so that's one course that I'm thinking about. As an interviewer, can you gauge so don't think that's coming next week. I should say it's probably coming in Q1 of 2020. So like towards the end of Q1. Right now what I'm doing is okay, so 2020 I'm doing this fucking book. I'm dedicating my life to doing this book. So everything else can get fricked. All right, as the kids be saying. So that's what I'm 2020 I'm finishing my book. That's what's going to happen in 2020 for sure. I'm also doing one course. So this I haven't done a video. So every year, for those of you who don't know, every year I talk about what I accomplished career-wise in the year, and then I also do a video what I hope to accomplish in 2020. So, or in the next year. So I'm going to do both those videos and talk about how I've progressed my career. And those are videos that are going to be coming out sometime this next month. but we'll be talking about it. What's the book going to be about? Well, the book's called Going. So I have a title because I know exactly what I want it to be. So the book's called Going Rogue: The Self-Taught Developer's Playbook. I might drop that first, Going Rogue, off there, but the Self-Taught Developer's Playbook is the title. And the idea here is I want to share experiences, and it's going to be less technical in nature. So it's not going to be something like clean code or code complete. It's going to be less technical in nature. What it's going to be is essentially 100 plus stories and topics that I think have helped groom me to be a good developer, be the type of developer people are looking for, talking about negative role models, interacting with recruiters, what to avoid, what to do, salary negotiations, these things that are very business heavy, but not technical heavy. Like there's going to be technical things in them, and how to go from a junior to senior developers level. And so essentially it's going to be 100 topics that are related to your career as a software developer, more so than your skills as a software developer. Does that sort of make sense, what I'm trying to accomplish? But that's the idea there. Yeah. So it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So pretty happy with that. That's going to be one thing. And but yeah, every year I plan to release one course, maybe more, but I'm committed to building a single course every year for the rest of my life. And the component one is one that I'm very interested in. The TypeScript specific one is one I'm very much so interested in. A series specifically dedicated to going from junior to senior and leveling up your code, very similar to my Code Like a Pro series, is something that I'm thinking of as well. So it'll be one of those three. I'm not quite sure which one yet, but it'll be one of those three. And what may happen with the 100 component challenge is I may release it with 50 components done, and it with the understanding that a new component will be coming out every single week. But in the immediate, so like I just spent a lot of my time getting this conference done, and in the immediate, I have to. For those of you who don't know, I'm applying to NG-Conf to speak at it. I got some tips and tricks from one of the organizers and speakers that I have a working relationship with about what to do. So I'm getting together 3 talks this weekend as to present to NG-Conf. That is in April in Salt Lake City. So that's something in the short term that I'll be spending some effort on, is trying to go. I went from a small time conference to the top of the top, more or less, these big conferences. And so I'm going to see if I can get accepted and play with the big boys. So that's something I'll be doing in the short term. I don't know if I'll get accepted or not, but that's something I'm going to aspire to do this year. And we could try again next year, and the year after that eventually will happen. But I don't know what the likelihood of it is that I'll be accepted. So that's something that I'll do. Another thing that I am going to be working on is a Google Developer Expert program in the subject of Angular. That's something I'm looking forward to. And let's see, what else was there? There's that. Continuing the podcast, continuing the YouTube channel, of course. Doing everything I can to make April become a successful developer. That's a major priority of mine as well. And yeah, just continuing growing, right? Continue grinding, continue doing the damn thing, um, and you know, ideally getting promoted at work. Although I was told I applied for a tech lead role, and HR won't take me. It's the first time in my life I've been denied for years of experience, like flat out. And I appreciate the honesty, so I don't think I'm doing that. But like I've interviewed at roles that I've essentially had for principal software engineer roles that are looking for 10 years experience. Uh, but separate learning React or Angular, React. Yeah, look, John, I can shoot him a message and saying, hey, I'm sending you some potential mentorees. But yeah, I don't know how often he does it anymore, but I do know it's something he does. Is it easier to get the first job in the Bay or elsewhere? Just apply everywhere. Any good resources for learning sessions and cookies? I was just Google YouTube. I'm sure, dude. I'm sure Brad Traversy Media has a great thing on sessions and cookies. If he doesn't, shoot him a message and he'll build one because that's something that needs to be covered. But I have no doubt he has something that's covering it in detail. Sessions and cookies aren't the hardest thing to understand. What is the harder part is how to build a nice little framework within your project to update, maintain, and utilize local storage sessions and cookies. That is the harder thing, and that's where a lot of people mess up. Yeah. All right, guys. I don't really want to use WordPress. Me neither. I am. Excuse me. I need to take a little break here because I'm about to go and film a podcast with Eric in just a short minute here. We are wrapping up the last few episodes of season 1 of Self Taught or Not. You can check those out at selftaughtornot.com. A new season, yeah. We are debating that. So right now, I think yes. So the major issue that we've had with Self-Taught or Not is that the hosting platform costs about $40 a month to put in all these platforms, and we weren't able to secure a sponsor for Self-Taught or Not, and that doesn't even count like the hosting of the URL and other stuff. But we are going to go and find a sponsor for season 2, and now that we have some analytics, we can talk about it and showcase like how this has worked out. I think it will be much easier to convince some people to come on board. But yeah, so Self-Taught or Not, we'll do that. And I think what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of shilling. And I mean, if we can't get an advertiser, we got our own stuff to advertise if we need to. But that will probably be what happens. And we'll make that money up with our affiliate links, with our courses, whatnot. But yeah, there will be a season 2. I'm pretty sure. I'm leaning. I'd like a season 2. But also it's up to my co-host as well, and we got to figure out what it is that we want to talk about, and it's well, so probably how it's going to play out. I know I was about to get off here, but probably how it's going to play out is we're probably going to take a 2 to 3 month break, and then we'll release the next season. So we'll have 24 episodes up, and then we'll take probably about a 2 to 3 month break. We'll generate some ideas. We'll talk to sponsors, do all that sort of stuff, and then we'll start recording again. And then we'll record probably at the 2-month break, and then at 3 months, hopefully we'll start releasing episodes again. We'll do another 24 episodes, or maybe another 12, or I don't know. But that's what we're gonna do. So it'll be good stuff. Get some guests on. Maybe we thought about it. So like, there are a couple people I'd like to interview, and we could sort of dive deep with, and like, I've always wanted to get like Traversy Media on the channel, just because I'm just a big fan of Brad, and so I think one, he creates great content. Two, I think one thing I like about him is that he one thing I hate about some of these channels of just YouTube period is people who they just let it go to their head. They're not very humble, and their ego grows. And I don't see that happening with Brad, even though he's slaying the game, slaying. I have no doubt he's doing great, and I mean, the numbers support it. And but he's from what I've heard from him sharing with his background, he from having rough times to better times. Now he's been able to keep a good head, and he just seems to be a well-rounded guy. I'm hoping to catch him at a conference one day. So maybe if I go to NGConf, I can bait him come hang out and give a talk. I'll be like, yeah, I was gonna give a talk, but y'all might know it, Traversy here. I throw his ass up on stage and see what happens. Like, yeah, Brad, you didn't prepare nothing. Don't worry, man. You can do my talk. Here you go. We'll do it together. I just ambush him. But yeah, man. So there's a couple guests, and a couple other people that I'd like to have on. I'd love to. There's a couple people, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays. But with that being said, guys, I'll see you next time. Thank you again to Luke John, who was our first and right now our only membership. I appreciate that so much. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel, it's one way that you can do it, to drop a few bucks here. Again, it's not for me to pay my bills. This is money that helps me plan for the future, allows me to do things like conferences, allows me to do some of these side projects. That's what some of this money is going to go towards. So with that being said, thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time.